Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. The most important news and editorial that are relevant for the preparation of civil services examination. The news will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 9th of February. The first important news, that is status and proceeds of disinvestment. This is from the text and context page of the Hindu. Second, Home Ministry update on Andhra Pradesh capital. There's a controversy and still something that the stand has to come from the Ministry of Home Affairs. A final update was given in the Parliament. Now, third, that RBI Monetary Policy Committee raised repo rate to control the inflations. The MPC meeting was basically conveyed, and the final rate has been revised by the RBI. Second last, that is Nordic-India connects to the power transition. There are two editorial for the day. The first from the Hindu and the other from the Indian Express. The last editorial is counting her work. Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And before I begin this session, those of you who are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do not forget to press a like button. Starting the session with the first news, that is status and proceeds of the disinvestment. Something important for General Studies paper 2 under the subtopic, that is the government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from a design and implementations. So the latest union budget, which was presented by the Union Finance Minister for 2023 and 24, the center has set a disinvestment target of 51,000 crore rupees, down nearly 21% of the budget estimates for the current year, just 1,000 crore more than the revised estimate. This is what for the current budget, the disinvestment part, which is actually there from the government end. तो टारगेट सेट की गई थी 51,000 करोड़ रुपए की, which is nearly 21% down of the budget estimate and currently just 1,000 crore rupees more than the revised estimate. It is also the lowest target in the 7 year by this present government. Moreover, the center has not met the disinvestment target for 22 and 23, precisely talking about the last year. उन्होंने realize किया that 31,106 crore of the data is there, of which 20,516 crore has been there to close, and third of the budget estimate come from IPO, that is 3.5% of the share, then the life insurance corporation, right? So this is from the LIC, the disinvestment pass were done, and even the government was criticized from the opposition party for the disinvestment on the part of LIC and many other central PSUs which government is looking forward for the disinvestment. Now, what is disinvestment? Something very basic about this disinvestment part. Disinvestment mean the sell or liquidations of an asset by the government, right? Usually, जो central government है और state public sector enterprises हैं, even projects and other fixed assets can have a liquidations or sell out की जाती है. Certain stakes of that part is given to private companies for corporations, and even some other part that is essentially required. There's a coordination between the entity and the central government, right? So there are three main approaches to disinvestment. तीन basically जो approaches हैं disinvestment के field में काम करती है. First is minority disinvestment की बात करें, minority disinvestment is a one that at the end the government retain the majority of the company, like typically more than 51% जब अगर stake government की पास होगी तो उस तरह के disinvestment को minority disinvestment के categories में डाली जाएगी. Now the second and third one is majority disinvestment and complete privatization. So in the majority of the disinvestment, one of the government, the post disinvestment retain the majority stake, that is to the company, and it sell off majority of the stake. So government would do what is being done in this context, that majority is being held by a company, not by the government. Now the third is a privatization. It's a complete privatization. The complete privatization is a form of majority disinvestment where 100% of the companies pass to a buyer. Like recently we have seen in the case of Air India, अगर Air India की बात करें, in that case there was a complete privatization that was there from the government of India. Now, purpose of disinvestment, the government may disinvest in order to reduce the fiscal burden or bridge the revenue shortfall of that year. and it is also uses the disinvestment proceeds to finance the fiscal deficit. So fiscal deficit को balance करने के लिए this is another way, another tool that government uses as a disinvestment, and even economy development or social sector program to retire the government debt. Disinvestment also encourage the private ownership of the assets and even trading in the open market. The Union Finance Ministry has a separate department for undertaking the part of the disinvestment, and the department is known as DIPAM, that is Department of Investment and Public Asset Management. So this is a concerned nodal body taking care for the entire part of the disinvestment procedures and other proceeds. Now, disinvestment journey की अगर बात करें इंडिया में, to begin with, the central government over the past 3 decades have able to meet the annual disinvestment target only 6 times. Like this started way back in 2014, although where the present government, that is the BJP-led NDA government, has met the target of disinvestment twice. And in 2017-18, the government has earned the disinvestment receipt a total of 1 lakh crore against 72,500 crore in 2018-19, and it has brought 94,700 crore to a target at set of 80,000. So this was the target set, and actual government had done this twice, one in 2017, another on the same part in 18-19. Now, notably, there was a report which was published by the PRS Legislative Research, which said that in case of disinvestment, the government sold more than 51% of the shareholding of the central public sector enterprises, along with the transfer of management, and it was sold out to other private sector enterprises. Now, CPs are likely to see disinvestment. जितने central public sector undertaking enterprises हैं, the central government has said that it is not going to add any new companies to CP's list for the disinvestment for 23 and 24. The other reason might be that there is a election that is scheduled for 2024. So in that context, government is not trying to give an impression that the government is lagging behind in terms of control of the monetary policy. No, basically fiscal policies की अगर बात करें, monetary policy is a part of RBI in India. So fiscal policy or the cash in turn की बात करें, the government is not trying to give an impression on that part. According to the DIPAM, the government has decided to stick to the already announced planned privatization of state-owned companies and disinvestment of the Bharat Petroleum Limited, SCIs and Concor has been approved by government in 2019 only, but there's no major breakthrough that has been yet done by the government. The center has introduced new disinvestment policies in 2021 to maintain the bare minimum that is present in the strategic sector that also include atomic energy, defense, and the non-existing sector and enterprises. Now, moving to the other news, Home Ministry update on Andhra Pradesh capital, something important for General Studies paper 2, that is functions and responsibility of union and states and issues and challenges pertaining to the federal structure of this country. So recently, the Union Home Ministry has definitely made it clear that Amravati is the capital of Andhra Pradesh, right? This is for time being the confirmation coming directly from the Home Ministry, and the government has refused to comment on the state government proposals to set up 3 capital, where the state government has categorically said that they will maintain the 3 capital that include Amravati, Visakhapatnam and Kurnool. But this is again a sub judice matter where the minister or ministry has not made a comment on this regard. So in April 2015, what has happened that Andhra Pradesh government has declared Amravati as a state capital. However, in July 2020, the state government has also notified 3 capitals that include Amravati, Visakhapatnam and Kurnool. Now, how is capital of a state decided? What are the factors? What are the legal procedures? What is the constitutional provisions that is involved? So Article 3 is there in our constitution, which allows the parliament to enact law to form a new state or alter any state areas, boundaries, name and existing states. Their elaborative part of Article 3 also. I'll give you a brief about that. How does Article 3 work and what are the core provision which is mentioned under Article 3. तो कुछ important part की अगर बात करें, basically under Article 3, the formation of new state, alteration of areas, boundaries, name and existing take place by parliament make all laws. So what are the conditions? Like form a new state by separations of territory from any state or by uniting 2 or more states, right? Increasing any area of state can be done under Article 3, and like diminishing any area of state can be done under Article 3. Alter of boundaries can be done under Article 3, and the alter of name of any state, provided there is no bill for the purpose that has been introduced in either house of the parliament and accept the recommendations of the president, right? So this is how the complete process of Article 3 works. Now, more part that is involved in this capital part. Article 4 is there, which allows the parliament to conclude any other requirement of the provisions in the law. And parliament enacts such law to create new states of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Now, when Andhra Pradesh and Telangana was split, the parliament exercised its power under Article 4 to make provisions to act about the capital of a new state. Now, Section 5 of the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act in 2014 stated that Hyderabad would remain a common capital of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh for 10 years, right? So this is what was actually decided by the Andhra Pradesh Reorganizations Committee. Now, this year, Hyderabad will be the capital of Telangana and will be the capital of Andhra Pradesh. Section 6 of the Act permit that the union government of any expert committee to make recommendations about the capital of Andhra Pradesh. Right? Now, moving to the other news, RBI MPC raised repo rate to control inflation, something important for General Studies Paper 3 under the subtopic that is Indian economy and issues related to planning, mobilization, resource growth and development. So recently, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Reserve Bank of India has decided to raise the key benchmark of the interest rate by 25 basic point, and this will be now the current revised rate is 6.5%. 4 out of 6 members of the Monetary Policy Committee have unanimously decided to go ahead with the hike rate of the repo. And what is repo rate? Repo rate is a rate at which interest rate at which Reserve Bank of India loaned money to the commercial bank. So in this case, RBI is lending to the commercial bank, that is known as repo rate. रिटेल इन्फ्लेशंस क्या है इस कंटेक्स्ट में अगर बात करें प्रेजेंट की सिचुएशंस पे जो आरबीआई ने कंसिडर की है द रिटेल इन्फ्लेशन शोइंग द साइन ऑफ मॉडरेशन and remain below the Reserve Bank of India 6% upper tolerance level, right? Projected slowdown of the GDP and growing with the next fiscal in the April. Experts are of the opinion, जो central bank है, they only have opted 25 basic point hike in the key interest rate. They will look for the stability. If things are working out accordingly, the rate would be revised. Now in December, the Monetary Policy Review and the central bank has raised the key benchmark interest rate by 35 basic point after delivering the 3 back-to-back increase, that is 50 basic points. And since May last year, RBI has increased the short-term lending rate by 2 to 5 basic points of the inflation, mostly driven by external factors that include global supply chain disruptions following the Russia's and Ukraine war. So the global instability has also resulted the high level of inflations in India, specifically अगर food inflations की बात करें जो कि काफी हायर नंबर पे थी because we import crude oil and even for other palm oil, essential oil was imported from Ukraine and Russia. Now moving to the editorial of the day, this is the first editorial, that is Nordic and India to connect the part of power of a green transition, something important for General Studies Paper 2 under the subtopic of General Studies, that is bilateral regional grouping and agreement involving India and affecting India's interest. So what is important under this editorial? First is the theme, that is India and Nordic countries' relations. We'll see how India and Nordic Summit has worked out. Trade link between these two countries and other members country, how it can improve with India. Free trade agreement, FTA के बारे में देखेंगे and how FTA and investment are working out and what is the way forward that can be concluded. So over the last decade, we have seen that the Nordic countries that has been pioneering the green technologies together, and even these Nordic countries and India can power the green transition in the world. Now, just to tell you, Nordic countries के जो members हैं उसके बारे में आपको पता होना चाहिए कौन कौन से countries Nordic countries के अंदर आते हैं. So I'll just tell you which are the countries because this is relevant for prelims examination. There are 5 countries which are the part of Nordics. The first include Iceland, second is Finland, third is Sweden, fourth Denmark, and Norway. So these are the 5 countries that all together the amalgamation is known as Nordics, right? Now, the other part of the news, the Nordics have successfully built stable, secure, and welfare based societies to a larger extent, where they have managed the needs and wishes for their inhabitants, right? So they are working in a close coordination and helping out each other as a group. Nordics and India can deliver key technologies and solutions to stop climate change and even boost the green growth. So in this editorial, the writers, which is again the one representing Finland and one representing Norway, they're trying to connect with India's part of the development and India's trade pact so that both countries are mutually benefited. Nordic-India Summit held in Copenhagen in May 2022. The 5 Nordic Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of India has agreed to intensify the cooperations in digitalization, renewable energy, maritime industries, and circular economy. And India has expressed an interest in the joint Nordic solutions that can support India's green transition. Although बात करें अगर इंडिया की कमिटमेंट की ड्यूरिंग द कोप 27, जस्ट टू रिमाइंड यू, आई हैव ऑलरेडी मेड अ डिस्कशन इन दिस रिगार्ड. कोप 27 में इंडिया ने पंचामृत की बात की थी, एंड इवन on the part of even for the COP 26, although there was a commitment that was made. So in COP 27, although this was COP 26, precisely it is COP 26, and where India has categorically said that India would be achieving the net zero emissions by 2070. तो net zero emissions की बात की गई है. तो इस तरह के agreements इंडिया को help करेंगी to get a transition, right, where which India is looking forward with. Now, the sectors such as clean energy, circular economy, digitalization, tourism, and maritime sector were the priority of the summit. Now, trade link that can grow between the countries and helping out mutually. So there have been a significant trade and investment between Finland and India, and India has also become the priority countries for Finland. Right? Finland की अगर बात करें, बहुत सारे ऐसे agreement हैं, FTA की बात करें, they are also working out to find a possible solutions where the other trade which is benefiting mutually can be worked out. So several Indian companies are looking forward in Finland to expertise in the area of technology and innovations, sustainability, digitalization, carbon neutrality, and more. An increased number of Indian student, researcher, experts are also moving to Finland as well. So in terms of education destinations, the country is also favoring Indian nationals. The trade between Norway and India has doubled in the last 3 years, and almost about 15,000 crore rupees has been invested so far in India through a climate investment fund, and number of investment is increasing rapidly. Free trade agreement and investment, again a very important and significant component for a bilateral relationship. Even if you are a student of PSIR, if you have an optional, now any countries that has India's relation in the recent times, the contemporary times that the country has already joined, this become very important for your examination. If you're being asked in examination, make sure you are using this as an example purposes. So both Norway and Finland has an ongoing free trade agreement and investment with India. और Finland की बात करें, which is again definitely a member of European Union and a part of EU, India EU FTA. Norway is negotiating through the European Union Free Trade Association. तो एक बड़े प्लेटफॉर्म के थ्रू अप्रोच करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, where the country is actually benefited. Right? Finland and India definitely has a bilateral relationship, but when it come together as a European Union FTA, then it will have its own sense of completion, and even it will have a lot more backing. In addition, the trade in services in the area is significant potentially, and especially with the tourism, education, IT, energy, maritime, and financial services are the important component. Now, way forward, India takes a rapid stride into the green, digital, and innovation future. The Nordic countries such as Finland, Norway are ready to share their experiences and to be the part of India's transitions. Definitely, India always look forward with proactive nature, where every and each country has a potential to contribute on the development part. Technology and innovations are successful, and scale up can easily be transferred to the other part of the world. And together, the Nordics and India can be the powerhouse of green transition globally. So this editorial was concluded on the part that both country representative are trying to convince India that if there's a good relation, a bilateral relationship established between these two countries concerning the part of FTA that is involved. So both countries will be mutually benefited, and that is the sole motive for any bilateral relationship. Now, moving to the second editorial of the day, this is Counting Her Work, written by Dibek Deburai. He's a member of Niti Aayog, and he is an eminent individual who researched down in the public policy. So this particular editorial is relevant for General Studies Paper 2 under the subtopic, that is welfare schemes for the vulnerable section of the population by the center and the state government. So what are the main themes that I'll be discussing under this editorial? The theme of this editorial is women participations in labor workforce. We'll look into the important aspects like latest quarterly PLFS survey जो है उसके बारे में देखेंगे, and even the findings of the female labor force participation and their concern, and some bottom line with conclusion part. Now, if you look into the periodic labor force survey, better known as PLFS, and precise definitions of that is LFPR, that's labor force participation. It is defined as a percentage of person in the labor force, that is work seeking and work that is available in the population. It also take into consideration the gender, how much male as well as female are the part of the actual workforce. Now, if you look into the part of the labor force participation, the percentage of the population which is in the working age group that is employed, that look forward to work but actually not employed. तो अगेन बहुत सारे कॉन्सेप्ट है, डिस्गाइज अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, प्रॉपर अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, विच कैन अगेन बी द पार्ट ऑफ द LFPRs. Now, issues of female labor workforce participation rate is an old, and even it has been extensively written about. There's a lot that has been talked about with regards to the low level of participation in the women, especially in the workforce, whether it is a rural India or an urban India, right? Now, latest quarterly PLFS की अगर बात करें, this is precisely concerning the urban India, because what will happen in the other part of the editorial, there's a little contradiction which says that the numbers are less, but in urban area the contexts are different, and this is latest one. This I have sourced from the PIB. So the PFLS conducted by the MOSPI have quarterly leveled from the urban area, that is till April, no, this is till July and September 2022. The data shows that improvement in the key labor market indicators ending in September 2022, both sequentially and over the last year as per the current weekly status. और labor force participations की अगर बात करें, it has increased to 47.9% for July and September and 46.9% for an year ago. So a marginal increase is clearly witnessed. While the work population ratio has strengthened from 42.3% to 44.5% in the same period. Again, there is no drastic change, but again, a positive sentiment is there in terms of increasing number. The trend is on a higher side. Now, female labor force participation और कुछ concern जो इस editorial में highlight की गई हैं, the discussion is about the female labor force participation rate that has been focusing for the interrelated issues. Why? The first issue is that why there's a low level of participation of female in the workforce. Compared to any other countries, several East Asian countries, the participation in India is very poor and very low. Second is why female labor force participation has declined over the time. What are the reasons? Are female getting the actual ambience in the part where they can work upon? What are the other bottlenecks that need to be found out? The third is if they have defined or declined over the time, what are the reasons? That is again something that government stakeholders and NGO can take care of this part. Now, fourth, do this answer varies depending upon the state, rural area, urban status, slice of the society or the sector. But to a larger extent, जो urban area की जो status है, that is on a positive side, right? Fifth is to what extent the gender gap is there in the labor force participation. Has it increased over the time? And positively correlated with the development, both male and female labor force participation should be higher. If it is not equal, it should be parallel to each other, right? And in any informal economy where employer or employee relationships are not common, arriving the number at the labor force work participation is difficult. So this is what the writer in this editorial wanted to convey, that they need to have there's no need to have any ambiguity. They need to have a crystal clarity on the part of laborers and employer relationship. If you conclude on the part of the editorial, you can write down that according to the International Labour Organization, that is ILO, research paper which was published in 2014, the female labor force participation is 56.4%. In India, that is for 12. And against the far lowest is estimated by 31.2% for 12. And can it be quibble about the methodology assumption that is made in the survey with the ILO estimate? So we have to check on the part whether the survey which was there by the ILO and in India, the things are taken care by NSSO and other reporting agencies, but the global agencies like ILO, even for the World Bank, these estimations will be really important for examinations. However, the fact remains that there are certain dramatic that are too high and can be explained by such assumptions. So things need to be taken care of, and that should be in a participation with a context that the government policies are aligned, that is favoring the part of women participations in like beat anything, right? So this is how the things can be concluded on that part. And more importantly, one thing I wanted to add at the end, if you see Manrega part, right? Manrega is a program which has a lot more contributions of women, especially in rural India. तो वहाँ पे budget allocations कम की गई है. For this timing, it's 60,000 crore rupees. So government must think like if things are being reduced, ultimately the end result is that the women participation will also drastically decrease. So these things need to be taken care of. You're writing your answer, you have to balance it out, and also highlighting that these part allocation part need to be taken care of. Now, this was a part of the bottom line or the conclusion. Moving ahead with the MCQ questions of the day. Before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. For first question, the correct option is C. For second question, the correct option is C again. Today's MCQ for practice, that is the Making Peace with Nature. This was a report recently published by United Nations Environment Programme, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, Food and Agriculture Organization, World Wildlife Fund for Nature. So do check it out for the correct options. Second question of the day, vertical launch short range surface to air missile system. It is ingeniously designed and developed by DRDO. It is capable of neutralizing aerial threat, including the sea skimming targets. So do check it out for the correct option. This was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis, followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.